President Trump is set to meet with Mexico's president next week to discuss tariffs on steel and aluminum. Right now, a 25% tariff on most goods from Mexico and Canada is currently paused.
Now, since Trump's second term started, his administration introduced, delayed, enacted, and paused those tariffs on America's neighbors. The Nebraska Farm Bureau says almost 1/3 of Nebraska agricultural goods are exported out of the U.S. Business leaders say the smallest adjustments can impact their bottom line.
The difficulties is the speed at which these tariffs are occurring. It's very hard for businesses to readjust on the fly in 24 hours or 1 week or even a month to reorganize their supply chains to be able to get the goods they need to stay in business.
During President Trump's last term, farmers were subsidized directly in the wake of retaliatory tariffs.
3 people